Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
I met Sarah at the Women Economic Forum, and we've known each other since 2016. And she is an inspirational speaker. She is the founder of Reason to Breathe, and she talks about stress, burnout, and she has this amazingly beautiful story that she told earlier at WEF this year in Egypt, and I was spellbound. And I just had to have her on board to share the story with us. And just do your magic.
Just do your magic. I love
Yes,
it.
please.
So I found myself in an orphanage in Vietnam, orphanage for disabled children, at the beginning of 2015. I had been in a really bad place, depressed, considering taking my own life. And when I started to heal from all the stress and burnout that had previously been impacting my life, I suddenly became aware of the simplicities in life that were at the orphanage that I no longer had in my life. Everything was complicated. Everything was about the next new iPad or the new phone or, all about stuff. And I didn't really know what made me happy anymore. And it was, you could, oh, I've got a new DVD or we're going to watch a movie, and everything just seemed complicated.
Mm.
And then a little boy with Down syndrome called Dirk taught me just how simple it can be to be full of joy and to have a life that makes you smile every single minute. So Dirk is about 5 foot tall, has Down syndrome, and has been in the orphanage since he was born, abandoned by his parents because he was disabled, and they could no longer look after him. And Dirk loves to dance. As soon as music comes on, his little foot will be tapping. He's, having a little boogie all to himself at times. But if we're at the disco that we would hold for the children once a week, he was the first one there and the last one to leave.
Mm.
And, he was always off to the disco, off to dance, and favorite song, Gangnam Style. If that came on, he was the Duracell bunny. You just could not stop him from moving. And there was one day I came to the orphanage, in the morning for the first session, and he was just really, really down. This little boy always had a smile on his face, and this day there was no smile. And I just couldn't get out of my head that where had his smile gone? Where had his joy gone? And then I realized, it was a fairly cold day. And so the children, if they don't have shoes and are not allowed to go outside, and for him, no shoes meant no disco, no leaving the room that we were in. And it was obviously, confining him a bit like we find ourselves at the moment where we are in lockdown or quarantine. And I immediately went to, well, when I go to the village for lunch, I'll just buy him some new shoes. His shoes were too big. They kept falling off his feet. He couldn't dance. He couldn't move. But you know what? I'll just buy him some new shoes. I have to say it, Western approach is it's broken, I'll pay money and it'll fix it.
Right.
And I was on sock duty. So socks in the orphanage are something that they don't get donated. When people are getting rid of old clothes or, giving to charity, socks are very rarely the things that people give over. And so we had 20 pairs of socks and 20 children. And I, the volunteer, was on sock duty. And so my job, 20 children, 20 pairs of socks. Once they all had socks, I was done. And for any of you out there that have toddlers or, young children who don't want to wear socks or don't want to wear any clothes that you've chosen for them, I had to do it 20 times in the space of half an hour. And so I started in this process. And By the time I finished, I kind of turned around, I was so proud of myself when that last pair of socks went on that last pair of feet. I could not be happier. And I turned around and 10 of the children aren't wearing any socks. Now, these are not highly active children. Most of them are, bedridden or in wheelchairs. So it wasn't like they took them off and walked away. The socks weren't there. I was like, my goodness, the staff are going to be so angry if I've lost 10 pairs of socks. Like losing one pair of socks would have been bad enough, but losing 10, I'm going to be in so much trouble. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw Duck and all the socks. Now, Duck's problem that morning was his shoes were too big. So they're like plastic sort of flip-flops, and his are too big. They fall off. And he basically put on a pair of socks, tried his shoes, and they didn't fit. So he put on another pair of socks and tried his shoes, and they didn't fit. And he kept going. Like he didn't, there was no anger, there was no frustration, there was no, I just can't do this and throw the shoes across the floor. He literally just kept going through until he's wearing 10 pairs of socks and his shoes fit so well that he can now dance around the room and run to the disco. And, at the time I was like blown away that, this little boy who's never been to school and never taught anything taught me how to appreciate what he had, how to make the best of a situation. He'd learned enough from me pulling my socks on and tying my shoes up to know that there was some correlation. And yet what he also taught me was how to fail. He was a master at failure as feedback and nothing else, because 9 pairs of socks worth of failure. How many of us would have gone with 10 pairs of socks? After 2, I need new shoes. Just that whole way of thinking was really the special part of what he taught me that day. And so, you and I had touched on just the simple things in life. For him, it was a pair of socks. There's another little girl for whom it's sharpened pencils. She loves to draw, and so if we had sharpened all the pencils and she could just choose whichever color came to her, she was happy. This wasn't about it being complicated. And sometimes, the children just wanted somebody to sit and talk to them or hug them or, just interact with them for a little while. I played a lot of catch. I built a lot of Lego towers and then had them destroyed. And then I built them again. It's those little things that are making us happy, put a smile on our face, that it took 10 pairs of socks for me to learn how important that lesson was. I'll never forget it.
I think it's all about resilience and understanding that don't give up. There is something else that you can do, and something else, and something else. This reminds me, I think, when in October, when Dad passed, and I'd stopped coaching, speaking, writing, literally put everything on pause. And the one way that I finally found to get myself out into the world again was to work at a special needs school. And it was kind of just very grounding, very nice to, be able to contribute and be of support. That's it. I mean, just go out there again and do something. And one of the things that I had taught the children was the little prayer that you do for your parents. And I had a very selfish reason for that. It was like, if they learn, then, they can do something for their parents. So that was something that I had taught them. And on one of the days that we were revising, and because they tend to forget what it's for, so the teacher asked, the lead teacher asked, what is this prayer for? They said, for parents. So one of them said, what do you mean parents? And somebody explained, for your mama and papa. And these are all children with different levels of, they're special needs children. So said, for your mama and papa. And one of the children said, I have only mama.
Yeah.
And then there was silence in the room, and fresh from my wound, I began to tear up. And the teacher pointed out to me and said, it's okay. Even Miss Rukaya doesn't have her dad, So this little girl turns around, looks at me, and she says, no, Papa. I said, no. And just feeling really lost, saying no. She said, don't worry, I love you.
Yep.
And it's like such a big heart, and this was the same girl who said she has only her mama. So, and you learn so much that, it's okay. It's all right to just go on. So I think for all of us in this situation where we are, it's okay. Life will go on. And while there might be certain things that we might miss out on, as we think that we might be missing out on, but life will go on, and we come through stronger, sharper, brighter.
And this, whatever you are missing out on, when you think you're missing out on, maybe it's because there's something better coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something that will, what will you remember most about the time that you were locked down? It won't be what you missed. It'll be who you spent the time with, the things that, meant the most to you during that time, and the conversations that you had. For me, I've reconnected with more people during this time because I have the time to do it, but with friends that I haven't spoken to in years. And that's the simple joys of life is, go back to the real basics, connections. And they might be like this across a computer screen, across a phone call, but it's time to enjoy the simple things in life. And if life is complicated, then simplify it. You don't have to come out of this perfect. It's, we're going to come out. Life will probably look different, and things that are important will be different. But it's really about knowing that you came out with what you were meant to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And this
You're
has
very
been
welcome.
brilliant. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.